But now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Alexandra Graham. She is the co-founder and vice president of Legatum. That is an Africa-focused U.S. company that has established the first fully integrated pharmaceutical manufacturing facility in West Africa. The Ghana-based company produces active pharmaceutical ingredients and converts them into finished dosage forms, making it a self-sufficient drug manufacturer, and it makes critical drugs available and affordable. She is the winner of the Frost & Sullivan African Excellence Award and the Ghanaian Business Excellence Awards. She has also lectured at universities in Nigeria, the UK, and the US, and she has a number of publications and patents in diverse areas of chemistry. Please welcome Dr. Alexandra Graham.
Thank you, Diane. And this is on. Thank you so much, Diane, and thanks to the Legatum Center, to Iqbal and Agnes and all for inviting me over. I'm just going to be talking to you about some practical solutions we have to healthcare problems in Africa and what we have done about it. Could you put the video on, please? I'll start with I'm going to cheat and just give a little 5-minute video, and then I'll tell you about how we went about this.
And his wife, Dr. Alexandra Graham, studied and worked in the United States for many years. They both held senior positions at well-known pharmaceutical companies, but wanted to invest their skills back in Africa, so they returned home.
The issues are in Africa. When you have such a high disease burden, and the problem is availability and affordability of medicines. If you've gone through the training, you have the experience, you've had the exposure to ways in which to make medicines, I think it is important to come back to where the situation actually is, because once you are in it, then you realize how dire it is, and you can also identify the right ways in which you can help. So for me, it was very important to come back, establish a pharmaceutical business, establish it with the right kind of standards, with the right kind of technologies that could help with the solving of some of the disease burdens that we have.
They started the Legatum Chemical Company just north of Ghana's capital city, Accra. Here, they constructed a top-end facility for research and pharmaceutical production.
It was specifically designed, built, and operated to meet international standards of good manufacturing practices. Trying to get the money to get this off the ground. I would go for venture forums in the US, and you present it and everybody says, oh, this is wonderful. Wonderful business idea, but you know, we don't think this is a for-profit model. You should go to the Gates Foundation and get some money. And that's totally against everything we're trying to do here. The idea is not to go begging for things, but to show that we can do it ourselves here in Africa.
Because Legatum is focused on the production of pharmaceutical products for West Africa region, and this is really the focus of FMO to enter also in businesses with taking care of the healthcare. Well, the consideration is, of course, the profitability, bringing new products on the market, looking for improvement of healthcare, especially not, of course, Legatum. And we think that through Legatum and the connection with the American promoters, American Ghana promoters, we think we have a good solution for the future of such a company.
Legatum currently operates on a small scale, but boldly demonstrates that it is possible to run this kind of enterprise in Africa. They were to face many obstacles along the way. So why did they start the company?
Trust me, we've asked ourselves that so many times. Sleepless nights and all, we've asked how crazy could we be. But if we don't do it, who will? Somebody had to take the leap. Somebody has to try and make a difference. And I think it helps that we had grown, our kids were out of the home, empty nesters, so you can afford to now start thinking of other things like, what can I do for society? What can I give back to society?
No, it wasn't heaven. I mean, it was difficult. There are so many challenges doing business. First of all, in our environment, some of the challenges include even utilities. constant supply of electricity. Lights are going on and off all the time, so if you have sensitive equipment, they suffer. Having continuous power to operate and to manufacture is also challenging.
There we go. And fortunately, we have a backup generator that comes back up immediately, but it's a problem. Can you imagine running a chemical reaction at 150 degrees centigrade and it goes off, the electricity goes off?
Dr. Lati and Dr. Graham are determined to make a success of their business despite the challenges. They have achieved what many Africans abroad hope to accomplish one day themselves.
I can tell you by experience that living out there, most of us out there, whenever we talked about coming back. There are issues. Sometimes you get caught in the salary trap where leaving your high-earning salary, the somewhat comparatively easier way of life, and coming back to face the challenges become tough. And I believe that that is what keeps most people back there, because you start thinking about going back home, starting all over again, facing challenges, things that you probably did not anticipate, and problems you hear occurring, and so on and so forth, would then keep you back, and you may not want to go back. But I tell you, the majority of the people that I know that I was out there with, for example, all talk about coming back one day to help.
There isn't a word like impossible in my dictionary, and so it's a question of perseverance. We know that we will make it happen, and so there was never a question, not till now, of we'll pack this all up and go back to the US. No.
Thank you. So that gives kind of lets you know what we've done, and I'll just take up a few slides to talk about some of the challenges that we have. This is something that everybody knows about. The Sachs Commission was able to come up with a macroeconomic model to show the poverty disease vicious cycles. People who are sick can't work, and people who are poor can't afford healthcare. So anyone who's talking of poverty reduction in Africa has to be ready to invest in healthcare. If you look at the disease burden, this again are familiar slides. Africa has 11% of the population in the world, and yet 75% of the disease burden. In terms of healthcare expenditures, just 1%. Now, you look at that, it looks so dire, but you look at the flip side. People who don't have shoes, you sell shoes. I think that was one of the talks last year. It's an untapped potential, that there is a need for that. So when we went into this, we looked at the burden of disease in sub-Saharan Africa. And curiously enough, one of the observations you'll see right there is that with the exception of malaria, it's the same thing that kills all of us all over the world. The difference, and the top 10 diseases are treatable. And they're really not, most of them are off patent, so the problem is availability and affordability. To us, we felt that the circle of dependence is not a solution. We have right now a whole host of donor organizations and governments who want to create solutions for us and implement for us. And I like this saying from Dame Julia Higgins: relief aid keeps developing countries dependent on the developed world to tackle the problems they face today. We need to take care of those problems ourselves. We need to get the technology, need to stop taking fish and learn how to fish instead. Our initial market is the West and Central African region. It's a population of greater than 300 million people. Nigeria alone has a pharmaceutical market of 2.5 billion. With the other Francophone countries and all, you have a total market size of 4.6 billion, and it's growing at a rate of 7 to 10%. Now, this may seem small to the pharma industries here, but for us, this is just a way of starting. So we looked at the West African region, which is where we come from, and it was easy to go in there. In Ghana and Nigeria alone, 30% of, it's only 30% of the drugs that are made locally. The remaining 70 are imported. In Francophone West Africa, it's even more dire. It's 95% imports and only 5% that are locally produced. An estimated 25% of these imports are adulterated or fake. Fortunately, This is where I'll give some credence to some of the NGOs. There's been a hue and cry about how we need to increase high-quality pharmaceuticals there. So there's a heightened awareness from the populace that we need to look out for that. And because of that, there's increasing support for local manufacturing. And with Big Pharma, they're also looking for places where they could get toll manufacturing of some of their products. So from concept to implementation, I don't have to go into too much. You saw the facility. So you can see that we set it up to US FDA standards. The whole idea was that we get US FDA approval of our ARVs we can sell to PEPFAR. We get WHO pre-qualification of medicines. But very importantly, we're ensuring quality of drugs in the region, and we're positioning ourselves for partnering so that we can supply things like clinical samples and so on. I'll just quickly breeze through this. One of the things that we have done, most of the other manufacturers concentrate on the paracetamols, acetaminophen, cough syrups, and so on. We have set ourselves up in a niche area where we have branded ethical generics that are recently off patent. And we choose the best therapeutic options, and we're able to provide quality information to our doctors, the pharmacists, and so on. Looking at the HIV/AIDS situation, we went rather than into ARVs right away, but into the drugs for opportunistic infections, which have dual purposes and so on. Right now, we have established a reputation of having, real superior quality drugs. Our market segmentation, we sell to the private sector through major distributors and wholesalers, institutional to major hospitals and healthcare centers, bidding to governments and other institutions. Because of the quality of our standards, we can go into international competitive tendering, which means we can supply to the global NGOs, UNICEF, PEPFAR, and so on. We have also started going into talks with some European pharmaceutical companies. One of them, for example, makes a huge amount of a drug that they give away for free, and it's done in Brazil. Well, the cost of making it in Brazil and then shipping it down to Africa, it costs about 10, 15 times the cost of if we could make it right there in Africa. And so we're beginning to talk to some of them about that. Some of the history and challenges. We started this in 2000. We put in all the everything we ever owned. But I always say the good thing about it is that if we hadn't spent the money then, we would have lost it anyway during the crash. So, so in hindsight, that was good. We were able to get debt financing from the US Overseas Private Investment Corporation, because as US citizens, you can get that money. And that allowed us to go on to complete the first phase. We got additional financing from private equity in 2009, and we officially only completed this project in last year. That was when we were able to roll out our oral products. We're about poised, ready to take in 2 products to WHO for pre-qualification. Major challenge, financing. It really was tough. Greenfield project, it has not been done. But one of the things I really like I heard recently was I asked somebody who I needed to get some more financing. Have you heard about Legatum? He says, yes. I heard you built a Rolls Royce for what a Volkswagen could do. And I had to go into educating him about the importance of having a pharmaceutical company like that. One of the things I really would like to dwell on as a caution to everybody is that there is a proliferation of venture capital funds and private equity funds in Africa right now. And it's very disturbing to me that what they're pitching to their investors is that they want to get involved, participatory management. They don't know anything about pharmaceuticals, but they just come in there, they put the money in. And this is a typical example of a company like that says, they put money into your company, and then they kick out the sponsors, and they look for CEOs and COOs to run the company. And this is something that people need to be really cautious about. You lose, if people do not share your vision, please don't get them in with you. Human resources, I have very little time, so I just want to touch on this because we need to look at a more holistic view of how we can get these things done. It's not enough to build a beautiful pharmaceutical manufacturing company like that. We need the manpower. Even here in the US, people do not learn pharmaceutical manufacturing in the universities. You get out, and then you go into on-the-job training. You're sent to all sorts of places and you learn how to do that. We do have the universities, we have people with the background, but because there are no industries like that, extensive training is required. So the way forward. The way I see going forward is a more holistic approach that includes human capacity building, manufacturing, and distribution. In the immediate future, what we're looking at is breaking up the company into 2 different companies. One that will focus on just the research and development and making these new products out, and a separate company that takes care of the sales and distribution, because that is really important. If you don't sell it, you might as well just shut down. It needs to be a sustainable solution. We're looking at expansion into other African countries. There's a state government in Nigeria that has asked us to come and replicate this there. And this is a new project that we're going into called the Pharmaceutical Quality Research Institute that will provide support services for analytical services and so other things, GMP training, preparation of dossiers for people who are not aware of it. But more importantly, we can get in young students from the secondary schools and teach them just how to be a technician in the lab, make up the solutions, and so on. These are skills that are needed. Postgraduate type of courses like 3 months or 6 months that prepare you to go into the industry. What we found is that we train these people, and after a year or 2, the rest of the other companies take them away. So if we're going to continue training, we might as well make some profit out of it. So in summary, this is our current status. We've been recognized as a manufacturer of high-quality pharmaceuticals. We have 25 products approved on the market right now. We are a potential supplier of zinc sulfate for diarrhea to UNICEF. We've been recently audited by PEPFAR so that we can supply them with anti-infectives, and we hope to apply to the US FDA for approval of at least 1 antiretroviral in 2012. And that's it. We've been recognized for excellence, Frost & Sullivan African Excellence Award, and so on. And I thank you very much for your attention, and I will be pleased to answer any questions at lunch.